Okay, let's begin. And guys, could you turn on your cameras, please? Okay. Limited words for the questions. Okay, Natalie's eating. Please turn it on later. Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. Uh, so Ron, yours is turned on, I can see, but there's nothing. It's like completely blank. How about the rest? Thank you, Larissa. Um, Javier and Jianhao and Natalie's eating and Caitlin. Well, I'm not gonna force you guys, but it'd be wonderful if I could see someone and not speak to completely dark screens. Thank you, Saron. Okay, so today we're looking at point of view questions for your non-narrative comprehension. That's your section C. Okay, so point of view questions are basically the ones where you are given two points of view. So you have one character talking to another character. So this character is saying something, and the other character is saying something else that is opposite to what the other character is saying. And most of the time, they will ask you to quote evidence from the passage that supports this character, and then also quote evidence from the passage that supports the other character, and stuff like that. So it's not too difficult, okay? Um, if you know what the character is talking about, but it's difficult when you cannot actually understand what this character is saying in the first place. All right, so I would say difficulty level of questions like these, I would give them 3 out of 5-star difficulty. All right, 5 stars being the hardest. So I think a 5-star difficulty question would be something like, you have to find inferential information that's not stated in the passage, right? And then for that inferential answer, you have to write it in your own words. That's like 5 stars. It takes so much higher order thinking skills to come up with that kind of answer. You know what I mean? This one is like 3 stars. As long as you kind of know what the characters are talking about, you should be able to find the answers. All right, so let's have a look at that today. Um, yeah, it basically tests your ability to understand opinions of others and why they actually give that opinion based on your understanding of the passage. Yeah. Um, Jianhao says, I'm lazy to get a shirt. I don't understand what you mean. Random comment. Oh, okay. Because you're not wearing a shirt. Okay. Well, you can get a shirt during the break time, maybe. All right. So you may be asked to find the evidence that led the speaker to this opinion, or to reject the expressed viewpoint and find evidence that supports the rejection. So it's not always that you have to agree with the speaker. You can, Natalie says, Jianhao wear a shirt bra. Quinton asks, is there a lesson next week because it's a 1-week break? Yes, there is lessons next week. 88 tuition doesn't have any break slots except for the major uh, celebrations. Yeah, like Chinese New Year and Christmas, I believe. That's the only 2 times that we will close our classes. For the rest of the holidays, our classes will continue as usual. So next week, it will continue as usual as well. Yes. Then again though, no stress, right? Because like for my tuition, as long as you do the pre-work, you should know what's happening. Yeah. And normally I don't if I give homework, it's normally optional. So but if you do it, you'll find that you won't regret it, right? Because you get more feedback. So you may be asked to find the evidence. So basically, you could be supporting the speaker or you could be rejecting the speaker. So it's either you are rejecting it or you are supporting it, right? So if you're rejecting it, why? What evidence do you have to reject it? If you're supporting it, what evidence do you have to support it? So study what they're saying, find words and ideas in the text that tell you that link to their viewpoint and see how the whole thing goes then. So, here's a sample. Mr. Chan worked for the UN. He wanted to help people living in absolute poverty. When he visited 88 tuition land, he found that students taking chemistry practical exams in rural schools, rural meaning like a bit more hard to reach, right? Like very distant places in the country, you say they are rural. not very accessible, right? So rural places are normally inaccessible, and they are normally uh, characterized by low SES, as well as um, how would I put, disadvantaged, because they are so far from major cities. It's very difficult to make sure that they have running water all the time, or to make sure they even have hot water, or even have water, right? It's also difficult to ensure that the telco network covers that area, right? Um, so if you visit a rural area, you will not be able to use your phone, right? At all. You might be able to use it for the basic functions. You just can't connect it to the internet at all. All right. Um, so these students were at a great disadvantage compared to urban students. Urban meaning like city area, residential places. In Singapore, everywhere is an urban area. All right. Except for maybe Jurong Island and Pulau Tekong and Pulau Ubin. That's about it. So compared to urban students, because they did not have a laboratory or apparatus to experiment with before taking the examinations, he made videos of lectures given by the best urban chemistry teachers, burned them into discs, and distributed these discs to rural schools. That year, the result in chemistry improved by an average of 56% in the schools. Very good. So below are comments from Nina and Angus, two students who study in a rural school. What led them to make these comments? So Angus says, as a student in this village, I do not feel prepared for the exam, not as well prepared as my cousin in the city. But Nina here says, thanks to Mr. Chan, my chemistry results have improved. All right. So these two comments over here need not be opposite to each other. They could just be presenting different viewpoints. Most of the time, though, I find that they are opposite to each other, and then you have to say why they have different such polarizing viewpoints. One is like in the North Pole, the other one is the South Pole, like totally different, okay, and totally opposite. But this one, not necessarily opposite. So here, all right, this speech bubble, this guy says, I don't feel prepared for the exam, not as well prepared as my cousin in the city. All right, what does this tell us about Angus? It tells us that Angus is one of those disadvantaged students studying chemistry in the rural area. So you have to ask yourselves, what's the evidence in the text, right? In the text that supports his viewpoint. So basically it's this part, right? So they did not have a laboratory or apparatus to experiment with before taking the examinations. This is the important part, isn't it? So that's the part that we will use for our answer. All right. So what led them to make these comments? Cite evidence from the text. All right. So I will say Angus made that comment. All right, because over here, because students like him did not have a laboratory or apparatus to experiment with before taking the examinations. So when you quote this part, right, please use your open inverted commas and close inverted commas to show it's a quote. All right, always do that. If not, right, your teacher might say, hey, you're copying it off like that, right? That's not right. Or if you don't want to do that, you can paraphrase if you want to. So if you want to paraphrase, you can change stuff, right? Instead of saying like laboratory or apparatus, you can just change it to equipment. You can change it to necessary equipment or something like that. If you want to paraphrase, um, experiment, you can change it to practice with, all right. For their before taking the examination, you can just change it to for revision, that kind of thing. You can easily paraphrase this, right? No sweat. All right, and then the next one, Nina over here, who looks for some reason like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So Nina says, thanks to Mr. Chan, my chemistry results have improved. So Nina was probably the one who, so it tells us that Nina is probably a student from the village as well, not village, sorry, from a rural area as well, the rural school. but her results improved, right? Because she actually received one of the discs from Mr. Chan, right? Who were distributing it to these rural areas. So how do you paraphrase? Think about it again. All right, so that part that she says, thanks to Mr. Chan, my chemistry results have improved. So what did Mr. Chan do? So we can quote the evidence from this side over here. So he basically made videos of blah blah, but then this distributed this to rural schools. So Nina must have actually watched this for her results to improve so much. So rephrase it, all right. But if you want to quote it, right? Open and close inverted commas. If you don't want to quote it, all right, change it so that the words are not the same. Okay. Now let's have a look at today's passage. Zoos. Okay, zoos are a fast fading attraction. Okay, in the past, when I was younger, uh, probably at your age or even younger, circuses were actually a thing, right? You could buy tickets to watch a circus. And then after that, the whole animal rights thing came, and then people said, oh, if you put animals in circuses, it's very unnatural. They're not doing what they normally do in the natural environment. You're abusing these animals by training them to act in such an unnatural way. Circuses are evil, basically. That's what the animal rights activists were saying. And because that message spread so strongly, and so many people got behind that message, circuses died out. You can't find a circus anymore these days. It's become so unpopular that if you tried to start a circus, no one would actually go see. So there might be some, dying out circuses still out there, but mostly you don't see circuses visiting Singapore anymore to perform, right? Due to animal rights issues. And then slowly but surely, you see that zoos are becoming more and more stigmatized as well. Right? They're saying, oh, these animals are not in their natural environment. Zoos are just like a fake environment. You're keeping the animals in enclosures and cages. And it's unnatural for them, that kind of thing. So zoos are fast becoming unpopular, but at the same time, um, it's widely recognized that zoos are not just there for people to go in and have a look at the animals, right? Which is what a lot of people think, like, oh, we go to the zoo and we just look at animals, we just enjoy ourselves. Um, Zoos are also places where a lot of research takes place on animal genetics, migration patterns, helping us to learn more about these animals in the first place. So I don't see zoos fading as fast or zoos becoming obsolete as fast as circuses did, because circuses were just purely entertainment, whereas zoos served an important function of spreading the message of environmental conservation. And zoos are a wealth of information, of research, because it every time someone wants to research an animal, they would have to go out and capture the animal. And what better way to study, like physical characteristics of animals, right, than to actually go to a zoo and study it, rather than go out in the wild, spend a few weeks looking for that one small herd of Asian elephants, and then following them for a few weeks, tired out of your minds, when all you wanted to do was study the anatomy of the elephant and that's it. So zoos definitely have their place in research. So thankfully, I don't think they are fading as fast. Um, yeah, so I still support zoos in the sense that I support their research efforts and the way that they're spreading the message, about conservation, and it's a different way of spreading the message, because no sane student would suddenly one day have this idea and say, oh, I want to go online and research all about the 101 different species of animals that require my help and need conservation, that kind of thing. No, right? It's something that you knew about because your parents brought you to the zoo in the first place. And then when you went there, you realize that, oh my goodness, these animals are dying out, they're endangered, they're going extinct soon, because you went to the zoo, right? You learn information like that. So it's still an avenue of learning as well.